Hello and good afternoon. I'm Crystal Reynolds Lewis, co-founder of Journey Promotions, and I am excited to be here on behalf of Rolling Out and Sisters with Superpowers for an important conversation with architect Holly Mizelle Johnson. Good afternoon, Holly.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so
Good.
much for joining us today on this year's virtual Design and Dialogue Conference. I know you have a wealth of knowledge that I believe would be empowering for those who are tuning in to the conference this year. So definitely wanted to spend some time getting to understand your background, what inspires you. And again, I know that there will be some great nuggets that we can share with others who are in this great world of design. So with that, I know you are a busy woman. I just wanted to kick off the conversation before you get started. I had looked, I was doing just a little bit of research to prepare for this conversation, and I saw that there are over 121,000 architects in this country. 2% are Black. So you are in a small but mighty group. And I'm just excited to spend some time with you and learning more about your experience and again, what inspires you. And hopefully there'll be some nuggets that will help to inspire others who are tuning in. So
Thank
with
you.
that, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself,
Sure.
background?
I will add before I start that if you had done the added research, and I don't know if you did, but if you look at Black female architects, it gets even smaller. It is
Yes.
still, architecture is still a male dominated profession. It is getting so much better than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Black females in the industry feel like unicorns a little bit.
Yeah, I think I saw a number of like 240 or something like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, you are
Yeah.
in a very small elite group.
Well, to answer your question, I grew up in the Midwest, Columbus, Ohio, and went to an all girls high school, and knew right away that I loved art. I was really thinking when I graduated from high school that I wanted to be an artist. And I told my mom at the time that I wanted to be an artist. And like most, I can imagine her thought at the time was like, this girl is crazy if she thinks I'm sending her to college to be an artist. And so she asked me to kind of reevaluate that. And I did. And I honestly was just like, what about architecture? I wasn't the type of person that, from birth knew I wanted to be an architect. I kind of feel like my passion for art and design kind of led me to that profession. And so when I was researching schools, I was looking for good schools academically, and discovered Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame in Indiana. And at the time, they were just sort of implementing their program, which basically focused on classical and traditional architecture. And the piece that drew me in was that it was a 5-year program, still is a 5-year program, but the third year is spent in Rome, Italy, the entire year.
Ooh,
So
that's
you
my
can
dream.
imagine, yeah, right. You can imagine as an 18-year-old, I was like, I think maybe this is where I need to be. So that's kind of what started this journey, is really Notre Dame's program kind of set me on a path that really made me fall in love with architecture and design, for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you mentioned Rome. You could see some of my artwork back here. I'm a mosaic artist, and one of the
Hmm.
things that's on my list of my bucket list, if you will, is to spend some time in Italy studying mosaic art. I mean, that's where it starts. That's where the
Yep.
masters are, and that's definitely something that I want to do in the near future. Just study under one of the greats and just visit the country and really look and experience and see and touch and feel
Yep.
mosaic. But yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I could see as a teenager how that could be inspirational. And I mean, just like you, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in college either. So, it doesn't, it just takes one little thing. Oh, a semester in Rome to pique your interest, which can blossom. I mean, you just never know where your
No,
interest will take you. So,
no, you
um,
don't.
yeah, that's awesome. So that's when you became passionate about architecture. Other than being an artist, what other natural skills did you have or things that you learned along the way that you feel have really helped you become a great architect, the great architect that you are today?
Well, it's funny. One of the misnomers, I think, a lot of younger people, students think that you have to be, an engineering and math wizard. Honestly, math and engineering were probably the two courses that I was sort of the least good at. Well,
Right.
I like barely scraped through my math and
Mm-hmm.
engineering classes, but what I would say is that I always had a good sense of um, geometries and how
Mm-hmm.
things are sort of put together.
Mm-hmm.
I was good at geometry. Maybe that was the only part of math that I was good
Okay.
at.
Okay.
And understanding how how to think in 3 dimensions, which is a difficult skill.
Mm-hmm.
I find that my clients who are doctors, for example, they are great clients because they naturally tend to understand thinking about things in 3 dimensions because they look at those anatomy books all the time. You think
Mm.
about it, they're looking at the anatomy in a flat piece of paper, but it's 3 dimensions, and they can understand that in 3 dimensions. And I think that maybe one of the natural skills that I had is always sort of looking at spaces. I think if you are observant and understand the space around you, you kind of naturally lend yourself to thinking about things in 3 dimensions.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
and I'm a very visual learner. I've always been a visual learner. I
Mhm.
visually see things in my head, and that lends itself obviously well to architecture and design, for
Okay.
sure.
Awesome.
Um, I always tell people, or designers and architects in particular, to always have a good relationship with your structural and engineering friends because
Mm.
we do work together. I do know enough to design things that are buildable, but I do rely on my structural engineering friends to help me make it all work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you kind of take the creative piece and then they come in and validate it from a structural
Right, right,
standpoint. Oh,
right.
interesting.
Yeah.
So you are an architectural design expert. So that is
Yes.
that. What other?
So
Okay.
that's yes, I am an architects work in tandem with other people to get buildings built.
Yeah.
It's not just one person, it's a team of people.
Hmm.
And we work with structural engineers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people in the team. So when we do our designs, we are pulling from all of these other industries as we're designing and thinking about all those things in order to make sure that the building, not only is designed well for the things we can see, but the things that we can't see as well, the things that are behind the walls.
Yes, like air
Right.
vents and
Yes.
hidden crawl spaces.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Got it. Got it. So tell me a little bit about Carriage House Studio. What is it, and how what brought you to start it?
So, I have been working in the industry, gosh, when we started Carriage House, probably 25 years of working in the industry. Um, and I started it with two other female architects. The three of us had worked together in the past, but we were all sort of at the point in our lives where we were a little bit frustrated with the glass ceiling, so to speak, in the industry. And we also felt like, um, again, female architects are so rare in this industry, and women owned businesses are rare. And we felt like we could fill a niche that needed to be filled. Um, so we started Carriage House Studio with the hope that we could fill that niche, that we could bring, fresh ideas to the industry. We're a small firm. Um, we feel like we are a residential firm. We focus on residential architecture.
Mhm.
All three of us have had backgrounds in residential work, custom residential work for, again, 20, 25 years. So we bring a lot of knowledge to the table between the three of us. And we felt like it was time. I think women often feel like they need to choose sometimes in their careers between family, having kids, and, you know, now's not the time.
Yes.
And I probably fell victim to that a little bit. But
Mhm.
thanks to my female colleagues and partners, they were like, no, now is the time. So we did it. And we didn't look back, and it was the best decision we ever made. And so we're really, really excited about the firm and where we're going and growing for
That's
sure.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I have been following your career a little bit. I've known you forever because I failed to mention in our introduction that we
I
actually
know.
went to school together. So you've been around in my life forever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's been incredible to watch your career in such a exciting field. Obviously, houses and buildings are all around us, and
That's
seeing
right.
how they've changed and evolved through the decades is fascinating. Tell me a little bit more about the most rewarding project that you've worked on. And before you answer that, I can think back on a conversation we've had where, just hearing you talk about your work is just fascinating. And I remember you telling me years ago about how you were renovating a barn into a mansion. And I'm like, her work is so exciting. But anyway, what's the most rewarding project that you've worked on?
Um, that's really tough. Because for so many years, I worked on, you know, I hate to say this, but I design houses usually for higher end homes. So obviously, my clients, are higher end in
Mhm.
their economic status.
Right.
So the
Level.
rewarding pieces of that, it's rewarding to do anything um, that's personal for somebody, and houses are very personal for clients. That's
Yes.
always rewarding. But I tend to always like a challenge. And I would say a few years back, I collaborated with another firm. It was a commercial firm, and we did a family office building for a client that it was a commercial building, it was an office building, but he wanted that building to look and feel like a house. Like he could bring his family there
Mhm.
and they could work there, they could dine there, they could hang out there. He could bring clients there if he wanted to, but it was really going to have this sort of homey family feel. And so the challenge was to bring all of the infrastructure of a commercial office building and sort of blend that with all of the things that we love the most about our homes.
Oh, wonderful.
Um, and so I'm saying that that was rewarding because it was probably very challenging because you're dealing with commercial building codes
Mhm.
and regulations that aren't normally placed on houses. And but you still need to give that building the residential, put that in quotes, the residential feel
Yes.
that a house would have. And it turned out really well. I pushed myself in ways that I didn't think I could because I just assumed that a lot of commercial building that the commercial limitations, or the limitations of a commercial building rather, would limit my creativity on the design
Mhm.
side.
Mhm.
And I kind of just went for it, and that it turned out really well. I would definitely say I was happy with the result of
Awesome.
that.
That's awesome. So that was the most rewarding project. What about, is there a design project or a person that you want to collaborate with? Like, I talked about my bucket list item going to Italy and studying mosaics. Like,
Um,
what would be that big collaboration or big project that you would love to get your hands on and do?
well, I definitely, living in Atlanta, I mean, I would love to do, you know, can we get Tyler Perry a second house? I would love to do a house for him.
All right, Tyler Perry, are you listening? Here's your next architect.
Yeah, come on, bring it. Um, I I actually would love to collaborate with a lot of different people. I think
Mhm,
because residential work is my passion, um, I've always really wanted to do a collaboration with a larger commercial firm to do really wonderful. And this is the grassroots part of me coming out, but I
mhm,
do feel passionate that um, low income housing needs help. It needs a
mhm,
facelift. Housing in neighborhoods and cities that have been through natural disasters.
mhm.
When you're rebuilding cities, I would love to collaborate with a firm that was doing really innovative, high quality designed homes um, in lower income neighborhoods. I
Mhm.
think it would be kind of a dream of mine. It would be a challenge,
Yes,
but I would love it. And I think it's an area that is in desperate need of like good design.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Affordable housing is so important now, especially with the price of homes,
exactly.
and the availability of homes.
Right.
Yeah, I was watching one of my favorite channels is HGTV, and they started talking about there was, I think it was House Hunters or one of those shows.
Yeah.
One of their guests was talking about how they wanted a tall and skinny house. I'm like, what is that? And I think, just driving through neighborhoods, I'm starting to see what that is. So lots are smaller, but you
That's
can
right.
build something more cost efficient if you build up on
Yeah.
that lot. And so yeah, that's fascinating. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so I, I've talked to already about my passion around mosaic art, and
Yeah.
what I sometimes do is, I'll pass a building or I'll see a piece of artwork somewhere, and I've always got my phone out and I'm snapping pictures, and I'm using that as my design inspiration for my next piece. Of course, it's a hobby, and which I haven't touched in a couple months, which I need to get back to. But how do you keep things fresh? Who or what inspires your work and is influencing your design?
I would say the biggest inspiration, the biggest sort of piece of my life that inspires my work is traveling. I mean, I I draw so many things from my travels.
Mhm.
It inspires everything I do. Uh, Phone storage is maxed out on the photos because I'm taking pictures. When I travel, I probably have 1,000 pictures that I take.
Mhm.
I think for a designer and an architect, traveling, seeing the world, is sort of the biggest piece of inspiration that you can get. Seeing
Mhm.
how other people live, observing other cultures,
Mhm.
um, how they use spaces. Um, it's all inspiration for how I work. When I travel with my family, they're always looking at me like, "Why are you taking a picture of that?" And I'm like, they can't even understand half the time why I'm taking pictures of what I'm taking of, but it's
Mhm.
all part of the things that inspire me. Whether it's even just a group of people gathered in a square or a plaza or a piazza,
Mhm.
how that space works. I'll be in a room that will seem pretty esoteric, nothing great about it. But because I love the way the space feels, the proportions of the space, I'll snap pictures. I might even take some measurements. Measuring spaces and buildings is something, it sounds crazy, um, but it can inform your
Wait,
work.
so you go on vacation, you have a tape measure in your
I
backpack?
have a tape measure. I
That
have a pocket
is
tape measure.
okay.
And if I don't have my tape measure, I pace it off with my good old feet.
Okay.
And
All right.
I can,
All
it
right.
works.
I
Try it. You can just pace it off with your feet and you can get pretty darn close.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, my feet are kind of big, so but might be more than
Well,
a foot.
actually, the bigger the better. You need to be close to a foot.
Right.
If your foot is close to a foot, then you're
Well,
actually
that's
close.
fascinating. I never thought about that. But yeah, I guess that
Yeah,
is a good way to get some really good ideas. Um,
right.
you've been dropping a lot of good tidbits here and there throughout our conversation.
Uh-huh.
Are there any other tips that you might have for the folks that are tuning in today? Around how they might keep their designs fresh and relevant. Like any other insight you want to share there?
Well, I mean, this is my personal philosophy about sort of designing spaces and buildings in general. I tend to feel like, and it might be because my background and my education is more in traditional architecture and historical preservation. And so I believe that a part of even my firm's philosophy is that looking back to precedents, buildings that have been built before, buildings that have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years, the practice of how they were built, how they were put together, is kind of essential in informing your design. And I'm getting, trust me, I know you're thinking, I said fresh and new. Why are you talking about old? Well, I think older buildings, when we study them, they inform new design. It's that concept of understanding the rules. It's sort of rule and invention that
Mhm.
once you have the foundations and the basis of good design, good proportion, good space, like the bones are good, then that sort of from that springs this inventiveness where you can add details that sort of make it new and different, unique. I feel like the base of spaces should be timeless, and then you can get a little bit more crazy with the things that you can change, like textiles, paint,
Mhm.
furniture, all of those things you can keep fresh and new. When you are trying to be too trendy with the bones and the forms, that never tends to work quite as well, I find.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's why I say traveling can be so helpful in that sense, because when you're seeing spaces that have lasted and have been there for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years, um, they had to have gotten something right. So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
a good place to form your basis from and then
Mhm.
spring off of there. But I also say that as architects, we kind of owe it to our clients to be sort of thoughtful and to be thoughtful about how people use spaces.
Mhm.
I think that women tend to be better designers and architects, if I can say that on this.
We'll bleep that
But
out. No, I'm just
we
kidding.
tend to be better at it because, women juggle everything. We do it all. Let's face it. We are running households. We're running we're the ones jumping in the car taking kids to soccer practice and
Mm.
then taking work calls in the car. And then during all of those experiences, we're observing how people live and
Yeah.
interact.
Mhm.
And I honestly think that those kind of things, those kind of observations help us become good designers and actually be creative in our design. I'm
Mhm.
always thinking of new and better ways to make my houses function better.
Yes.
Yeah. And to me, like the sky's the limit, if it can be built, or if you can dream it, why not try to build it?
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I know who I'm gonna call when I get my Tyler Perry size mansion lot and start designing my dream and forever home. So this is
Well,
awesome.
I'm there for you, girl. I'm there.
Well,
Right
I
here. Just give me a
appreciate that.
call when you're ready.
I appreciate that. Um, so as a Black woman architect, what would you say is your superpower? What makes your work stand out, and why do people seek you out for your architectural design?
Um, well, I think that it might be I think that it's possible. Well, one of the things that I think about the most, it's a hard question, but I feel like um the culture, not only of a place, but the culture within a home
Mhm.
is one of the most special things that you can bring to a design.
Mhm.
And so, and that can vary from place to place, right? So if I have a client that lives in Louisiana or, and they have an African heritage,
Mm-hmm.
or they may have a Spanish heritage. I am I'm going to be the one that thinks about that heritage, that
Mm-hmm.
those aspects of that culture, and bring that into my design.
Yeah.
Because I think that those are the things that really make spaces, buildings, homes, in my case, unique.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I do think that as a Black female, we draw from a lot of experiences. Again, there's so few of us in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, whether you're from the islands, whether you were born in the States, whether Black women can draw from an enormous amount of experience from all different angles, and I think that aspect of is really sort of special and unique
Mm-hmm.
to us. And for me personally, I feel like I'm sensitive to that. I'm sensitive to where people are from, their
Mm-hmm.
culture, and that specialness that you can bring to a project. Um,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, I mean, you didn't say it, but I'll say it. I know that you have great, great, great style and flawless taste. You
Thank
always
you.
have. I know you're very creative. I remember your painting of your little ballet slippers that you had in your daughter's room when she was born. And I'm like, I wish I could draw like that. But I mean, you definitely have great style and flawless taste. And I know that plays into that. Those are definitely your superpowers too, and play, I'm sure it
Yeah,
plays into
yeah.
your
And honestly, my mom would admit it, but me being an artist and painting has always been, I think, a source of um it's a quality that allows me to, I think, do a pretty good service to my clients,
yeah,
because it's if you were a writer, you know, the written word is really important. You need to, if you're, you need to be able to put things on paper to get your ideas across in
yeah,
words. Well,
yeah.
architects get their ideas across with drawings. And I've
Hmm.
always been really good at drawing.
Yeah.
And that is really my superpower, as far as I can draw well. And so that means if I meet you at a restaurant
Hmm.
when you're ready to design that house, I can probably do a quick sketch on the cocktail napkin as we're having cocktails and appetizers.
Yes, and that's awesome. And they go home
Yeah,
all inspired and they put that in their keepsake book and they keep
that's
it
right.
forever. And like, oh, here's where it all began. That's awesome. That is
Yep.
so awesome. Well, thank you for that, Holly. Thank you for sharing your story, your inspiration, your motivation behind architectural design. I think this was a great, great conversation. One last question. How do
Yep.
people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about you and Carriage House Studio?
Well, we have beginnings of a website. It is a website that's there. We're still working on it, but and adding things to it. But chstudiollc.com. Look us up. Send us an email. Drop us a note. You can also get our number on the website. I'd love to talk to you. Anyone who wants to talk. I am a proponent too of educating young people in this industry. We
Mhm.
need more women, we need more Black women. So if you need to be inspired, you need me to be a cheerleader, call me because I would be happy to talk to you.
Yes. You were a cheerleader in high school too, weren't you?
I think you were. We don't
Oh,
want
this
to
was
talk
so,
about that.
oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what brought me there. Anyway, thank you, Holly. So it is chstudiollc.com.
That's
Um,
right.
well, thank you, Holly. This has been a pleasure. I always enjoy talking to you and learning about what you do. I hope that the others that are tuning in today have picked up some good tidbits as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
So
And
thank you,
thanks to all of
Crystal.
you who tuned in today. Enjoy the rest of the conference. And Holly, I'll be talking to you soon. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.